Good evening. Thank you to those that have joined live this session. I appreciate it is evening on one of the hottest days of the year, so I do appreciate it, but also thank you if you are watching this on replay as well. This is the third update of 2020. It's going to be a year that we're not going to forget. There has been plenty of social media changes, so it's my role to share these with you and to keep you updated in what's going on in this crazy world of social media. The agenda this evening is not going to last ages unless you have hundreds of questions. If you're watching this on record, please do feel free to get in touch either via the Arb Association or directly afterwards if you have any questions about the content. I'm going to talk about the four main platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. At the end of this slide deck, I have put some top tips based on what I usually get asked in sessions and questions that have come up when I've been working directly with some Arb clients recently. And then I know one of the biggest challenges people face with social media is where to find content, how to create content. So I've added in some extra source ideas for you today as well. As I've said, you can ask me anything. Please feel free to pop it in the chat. Ideally about social media or marketing, but if there is anything else you think I can help with, then feel free to ask and we'll see how we go. Now, the one thing about social media is that there are always changes to the platform. Every week there are changes, and it's part of my role as an independent marketer, consultant, trainer in these areas to keep on top of those changes. And I counted from January to June this year, 180 updates. But don't worry, I'm not going through all of those today. I have just picked out the key ones for each platform that I think is most relevant for you and your business. And July and August is always a bit quieter. There are fewer updates right now. And if we think about what's been happening this year, then a lot of the changes that have come in this year have been in response to the coronavirus crisis and supporting businesses to make the changes that they needed to in terms of communicating when social media has been the platform that people have turned to for news and information. I should mention that over the last 3-4 months since the last update, there has been a couple of other big events as well in the world, and particularly in the world of social media. We did have Black Lives Matter. That's not ended, it's obviously still ongoing, but we did have the initial reactions to world events and protests, and that did have an impact on social media as well. It's a big topic of conversation. People share what they're thinking and they're feeling on the platforms, and some businesses got involved with that too. We've also know that globally there is an election in the States coming up later this year. Mr. Trump likes to get involved in the world of social media, spend money on advertising on social media, and the platforms have been criticised in the past for their role in elections and people's decision making, and they are addressing that very closely. But some brands have decided that they're boycotting Facebook, particularly during the month of July. We saw a number of large brands withdrawing their support for advertising. It turns out that it hasn't actually had a huge effect, and it certainly hasn't cost Facebook any money, but it's certainly something to consider, that this is a really important communications platform, and people are using it to understand what's going on in the world, to find out what's going on in the world, and just to see how other people are feeling about things right now as well. So it really is quite a powerful place to be for your business and for you as an individual as well. Let's start with LinkedIn. If you're using LinkedIn, it is most likely to be for your commercial, your utility clients, maybe care homes, councils, things like that, where you can find your estate managers, your business owners, and connect with them and share updates. There are a few new features on LinkedIn that are particularly helpful. I actually did this afternoon so that I could have it as a demonstration. If, like me, you have a name that is sometimes hard to pronounce, or if the fact you want to take advantage of this opportunity there is now the option to do a very quick recording, a 10-second recording next to your name on LinkedIn. It's when you edit your profile section, and you can see on my profile there's now an icon to say that there's audio. The idea was it to be that you could pronounce your name so people knew how to say it, but because it's 10 seconds, it's a really nice chance to tell people what you do and to get in touch. So I've done that today. You could see it if you want to go on my profile. It's only on the mobile. We know that globally and in the UK locally as well, there are significant job losses happening right now, particularly as the furlough scheme is coming to end as well. No business is really immune to this, and it's happening. LinkedIn themselves have made huge numbers of redundancies because of the lack of recruitment that's taking place. So they have some features that I think are worth using, even if you're not in that situation. The first one is to show that you're open to work. Again, you can see that I've put this on my profile. It's not that I'm looking for a new job, but it's just saying that I'm open to opportunities, and people are very welcome to get in touch with me if they want to. You may also notice that if you are posting on LinkedIn, if you're going to the homepage and doing an update, perhaps sharing something that's in the news or writing a comment, there is now an option that says offer to help. And if you're using LinkedIn and you see that people are looking for job roles, are talking about challenges in their business, it's really a time right now to offer your help and support, and the platforms are making that easy for people to do. I think it was in the last update that Facebook and Instagram had been adding stickers and adding more to their like buttons than just like, and LinkedIn followed suit in that when you want to engage with a post, it's not just about liking it now. There is now the support option as well to kind of show people that you are supporting them and offering help. So it's very much a place to work together and collaborate right now. Twitter's probably the social media platform that ARBs are using the least. It is an amazing place if, again, you want to find out what's going on in the world. People are sharing news, what they're doing, they're sharing articles. I did a quick check on this. The ARB Association have 18.2 thousand followers on Twitter. The Tree Council have 17.6 thousand followers. So don't think that people in your industry aren't using Twitter as a platform, but it might be a platform that you just set up an account, follow accounts like the ARB Association and the Tree Council, and get news and information that's useful for you. And then you use that as content to either share on your LinkedIn with your commercial contacts, or on Facebook and Instagram with your domestic contacts. I think that's the best way that I advise people to use Twitter right now, is as your source of news information and what's going on, because it's so fast and you can find things, but perhaps tweeting isn't for you, but you can use that information elsewhere. But if Twitter is for you, they've added a really nice feature, a long-awaited feature, in that now you can schedule your tweets directly from twitter.com. You don't need to use another management tool like Hootsuite or Buffer or lots of other ones that are out there to put things on timers. You can now do it as you're writing your tweet. If you don't want it to go out straight away, you can click on that little calendar icon and schedule it to go out at any day or time that you want it to. Another great feature, I think, on Twitter, and I'd like to see this on the other platforms as well, is that it's now prompting you when you want to share something. So it's very easy to share tweets, share any posts, but particularly on Twitter, because the character length is so short, it's usually just a headline. And what many people do is they think that the headline is relevant and they'll just click to share it without reading the article itself. So Twitter now has a prompt to make sure and ask you, have you read this before you're sharing? So I think that's a really useful one. If you like audio, a bit like the LinkedIn feature of being able to add voice to your social media, if that's something that you prefer rather than perhaps typing messages, you can now, if you have an Apple device, do audio tweets. So when you go onto your app you could type, but you could also do something audio as well. So if you just wanted to kind of type something like what I'm working on today, and then record, you know, I'm on site and this is what we're up to, you know, ask me anything. Audio tweets is quite a nice new feature. And Twitter, having interesting conversations again right now with the elections coming up. I don't cover TikTok, but I will mention a feature later, but you may be hearing that Twitter are interested in buying the TikTok platform. Microsoft have also expressed interest in the TikTok platform. I think that's going to happen, or something's going to happen with that over the next couple of weeks. But Twitter are also looking at how they can increase their own revenue. All the platforms have taken a hit during the crisis in terms of ad spend, so they're looking at other ways to generate revenue. And they are looking at apparently a subscription platform, which could be anything right now, but it's certainly something to watch. Yes, it will be monetized, but often when platforms monetize, they become hugely valuable for the features that they are charging for. Allows you to filter out some noise as well. So that's a kind of watch this space, see what happens. But Twitter's still there. It's all about news, real-time information, but just the number of people that are following Arb and Tree Council, I think it could be a place for you to investigate. I'll share the resources at the end, but just in case you haven't seen them, there are introductions videos in the Arb Association's e-learning library. I've recorded short sessions on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you're not using the platforms and you want to know a bit more, there's intro sessions that you can go and have a look at on there. But let's turn to Facebook and Instagram, which are probably the platforms that you're using for your domestic clients, with a Facebook page and an Instagram page, business account. You need to upgrade your Instagram account to a business account. But let's think about what have Facebook done over the last 3 months. Maybe not quite so relevant for your industry because you have the opportunity to work outdoors, but for those of us that are in offices day in, day out, like this session, we're spending a lot of time on Zoom, on video calls. Facebook have got involved with that trend, and you may now see this when you're looking at your Facebook profile. It says, you know, join a room. You can now do online video conversations in a messenger room for up to 50 people. Maybe something that you want to do with your teams to stay communicated. Use Facebook in that way. Again, as a way to support businesses, I was looking at some stats earlier today. Some of the e-commerce trends throughout the last few months as we've been on lockdown have been huge increases in online shopping and in what people are buying. From jigsaw puzzles and board games to home subscriptions for recipe boxes, you know, online shopping is huge. I've included this because I thought as a everyday person without your Arb business hats on, you may find that you're seeing more shopping opportunities on Facebook and also on Instagram. Going back to the news and staying up to date and thinking about content that's being shared, the world is changing so fast right now. Facebook has added a notification to let you know that if you see an article and you're looking to share it, it's going to let you know if it's more than 90 days old. We're in a time where news, information, advice is changing rapidly, so we need to make sure that what we are sharing and what we're viewing is up to date. So I think that's a really valuable feature to spot and to use as well. Reporting on Facebook, is it working for your business? Are you getting results? Are you getting likes on your posts? Really important. But Facebook have added some new stats around comment engagement. And this means that they are looking and encouraging people with Facebook pages to get comments on their posts. Because when people comment and get involved with a post, it pushes it out to their network. So your friends will see when you're commenting on things, depending on the settings of the page, unless it's a private page. But they will see when you like things, when you comment things. So Facebook wants to encourage business users to go for that to get engagement. So it's actually providing some stats around that too as well. And my biggest tip there is really that when you're writing posts, if you want people to engage with them and start sharing them, then think about not just going, here's a picture, or here's a tip. Ask people questions. You know, are you enjoying the heat wave? The trees aren't, we need to water them. How are you looking after yourself? Think about questions that you can ask, because when people see questions as they're scrolling, if they know the answers, they very often start typing them in. And finally, this is something that I think I've covered before, but I thought was worth highlighting again because Facebook have updated it. And that is the opportunity to manage your activity. Now, this is on your personal profile, but I'm highlighting it because when you are commenting on pages, perhaps interacting in groups, when you see that people are looking for recommendations for tree surgeons, if people can click through to your own personal profile and see pictures of your house, your family, your friends, your pets, your holidays, what you get up to at the weekends, you may want to be hiding that from them. You can share whatever you like, but if you're using Facebook for a business perspective, connecting with clients, maybe colleagues, you might just want to make sure that you know what you're sharing and who you're sharing it with. So there's a couple of things to do here. When you are using your mobile and you go onto your Facebook profile, there are 3 dots. You'll see your photo, and then there's 3 dots just under the photo. If you click on that and then profile settings, you will see 2 things. View as means that you can look at your Facebook profile as if you are someone that's not yet your friend. So that's any member of the public, what can they see? And the second one, the new updated one, is activity log. And this means that it's a really quick and easy way to go through and have a look at what has been added to your timeline, any photos that you've been tagged in, what you've posted 3 years ago. And if you want to remove anything or update anything, it's really easy to do that now from the activity log, rather than having to scroll through your page and making lots of edits. So I'd really just advise you, as a user of Facebook, as someone that may be using it to promote your business, just make sure that you know what from your personal profile you are sharing and who you're sharing it with. And if I move on to Instagram as the 4th platform, they've done some wonderful things during lockdown to encourage people to stay at home, let people know that they're safe, share pictures. They have more recently added the opportunity to raise money for personal causes. And I think this is important if you as an individual are doing any fundraising, but also as a business, if you support any charities or charity initiatives or doing any fundraising that is something that you like to promote as a business, you can now do that from your Instagram profile as well. I mentioned shopping earlier on Facebook. That is also on Instagram. It's something that you could think about if you have products and services. Maybe the Arbor Association could put their books in a shop on Facebook and Instagram at some point. But as a user, you will start to notice these. Now, there are 2 parts to Instagram. If you're not familiar with it, there are photos that appear on what we call the grid, which is what people kind of scroll through and like. But also along the top, in circles, you have what we call stories. Stories are also on Facebook, and they are something that are a bit rawer, a bit more in the moment. People take them, they don't have to be huge productions. And the great thing about them is that they just stay on your profile for 24 hours. They're a great way to kind of stay visible because they appear right at the top when someone looks at Instagram. And so because they're so important, Instagram is testing new ways to view stories to make sure that people actually get to see this content. So it's really good if you're on site, taking pictures before and after. This is what we're doing today, and don't want to worry about taking the perfect picture, but just want to kind of keep telling people what you're doing and what you're working on, then use stories. And I mentioned the word TikTok earlier. I'm not personally a TikTok user, but that functionality has now been introduced to Instagram. It's called Instagram Reels, and it is basically 15-second videos. But we are seeing that there is a lot of creative people out there, particularly younger people, that are doing dances, doing TikTok challenges, doing sporting events. They're really engaging, they're fun. I'm not yet quite sure if they're being used by businesses, but they may be at some point. It's worth having a look. You can watch Reels if you go to the Explore tab, which is the magnifying glass at the bottom. If you want to do a reel, a 15-second clip perhaps of you on site, you can do those just by using your camera. Reels is now an option. But it's always interesting how functionality from one platform makes its way onto another. So I'm sharing these with you so that if you hear these words being spoken by people, then hopefully you know what they are. So various changes, some important, some not so important, but I think it's good for you to be aware of what's happening on social media and what might be relevant to you, both as a user, but for your business as well. So now on to some top tips that I've updated for you. The key point of using social media to promote your business is about being consistent. It's about keep marketing and staying visible. Even if your books are really busy, don't switch off marketing, because they might not be in a month's time or in 3 months' time, and it would then be a huge effort to start doing something. It's much better to make this part of your daily, weekly habits, knowing that you go to site, you take a photo and you post it, that once a week you post a tip. The weather's looking bad at the weekend, could be an issue for trees, you post about it. Little and often, and making it part of your routine is far better than going, we need some business, or having to create lots of activity at one time. That's always my biggest marketing tip. Little and often, and just stay visible, because you never know when people are going to need you, when people's friends are asking if they can recommend anyone. So just drip feed this stuff out all the time, because at some point, the time will be right and people will remember you. Consistency is what time and resource you've got, really, but the best guidelines that come from Facebook and Instagram are 3 to 5 posts a week. I think that's manageable, particularly because you can schedule things in advance, particularly because you can share information that you find in other places. You don't have to create everything yourself, but some ideas for content that always works well on social media, regardless of the business, is before and after pictures. Make sure that you have in your process, when your teams are going out, take a picture before, and then make sure you take a picture afterwards. Make sure the site's clean and tidy, health and safety, all those kind of things, but just make it part of your mental checklist. Take a picture before we start and take one afterwards when it's looking great. People also are intrigued by people. They like to know who's coming to their properties, who they're working with. And if your people are well qualified and really important to your business, have a good rapport with your customers, why not use them in your marketing activity and get them involved in this as well? It's really simple meet the team posts. A picture, this is their name, how long they've worked for the business, what's their favorite tree, what do they like doing outside work. Doesn't need to be over complicated, but just use your people as part of your marketing activity. Top tips, things to do this month, always useful as well. What may be literally second nature to you isn't to your customers. Anything that you can remind them to do, or think about, or book you for, or look for when they're on their daily walks and outside in their holidays, looking around. Just share top tips, things to do in the great outdoors. And I'm sure if you sit down with your teams, you could easily come up with 4, 5, 10, enough perhaps for one a week for the next 6 months. And then you start posting them again. Did you knows are also always good fun. Fun facts, tips, advice, people love that kind of stuff as well. So just some ideas to help you create those 3 to 5 posts a week. If you have important information about your business, like announcements, things to do that month, things that they must book you for, kind of thing. If you're using Facebook and Twitter, don't forget to pin those at the top of your profile. It keeps it there. It means people don't have to scroll to find it. You can literally put a drawing pin in it so that that's the first thing people see when they go to your accounts. And then my last top tips, really, and I'm going to show you how to do this one on the next slide, is about, I'm often asked, when is the best time to post? And the answer is usually when you know that your followers are online. So the answer may be different for one business to the next, but the answer to this question is always in your own data. And you can find this on Facebook, you can find it on Instagram. If you do use Twitter, there are extra tools that you can use to find the answer. LinkedIn is a lot slower, so it doesn't really matter when you post on there. And then my last tip is really to go through and make sure that your profiles are set up correctly. Just really make sure that you've got a good photo on there, that the nice banner image is branded as well. You may be changing that seasonally. Is the information that you've got on your profile up to date? Sounds obvious, but very often we just fill in those boxes when we first set up our profiles, and we don't often revisit them and check that they're still right, or perhaps even just amend them to see if it can help us get more views and get more followers. If you go through those learning videos that are on the Arbor Association e-learning platform, then it takes you through how to set up the profiles correctly. If you're not sure, you want me to take a look, I have a checklist on the steps that you need to take, then again, please do get in touch. So this best time to post, I thought I'd show you this from Facebook. It's exactly the same in Instagram if you have changed your account to a business profile, which is just in settings. And the main difference there is that then you get to see this information. And again, on the app, it's called Insights. It's harder to find on Facebook, so I did a screenshot of this one so that you could find it. When you go to Insights along the top, down the left-hand side, if you go to Posts, you then get this graph that tells you by day of the week. On this example, the day of the week doesn't make a huge difference. The stats in terms of when fans of this page are online are very similar every day, but sometimes you do see that perhaps people, the fans of an account might not be online at the weekend, or perhaps not midweek. It may show you day of the week. If not, don't worry about it. Spread your 3 to 5 posts across. But at the bottom, we can see there's a graph here of times of day when people are online, when the fans of this page are online. And my best advice is that you should schedule or post your content at the time when you know people are most likely to see it in their feed. So on this example, I am not going to post between 6 and 9 p.m. in the evening because my followers aren't online. They're probably doing homework, having dinner, watching a bit of TV before they pick up their phones and start tapping away again. So I'm probably going to post in the morning and then perhaps later in the evening if I want to, if it's relevant for me or if it's relevant for my business. But I'm absolutely not going to post when my fans aren't online because they're not going to see it. And by the time they get back to their phones or their desktop apps, they'll be scrolling through lots of other stuff. I want to hit them when I know that they've got their phones in their hand or open on their computers. A tool that I thought would be worth sharing, you may have seen this, you may have not, but when I mentioned talking about posting, top tips, did you knows, that kind of thing, it doesn't always have to be photos or text. You could create your own images, and it's really easy to do with a free tool. I know everyone likes free tools. This is called Canva.com. Visit Canva.com, set up an account for free. There is a paid for version, but you're absolutely fine with a free one. And hopefully you can see along here that very easily I can go, oh, I want to create an Instagram post, or I want to create a Twitter post. I can click on those They're preset sizes. And then what you'll see is there's photos in there. You can add text. It's all kind of drag and drop. It's far easier to use, I think, than any Word, Excel, PowerPoint kind of product for creating things. It really does kind of show you how to do it as you go. And you could create great images for testimonials, pictures, text, recruitment ads even. So that's a great tool that I would recommend you have a look at if you're struggling to create posts for your social media pages. Couple more slides before, if you've got any burning questions. Again, some sources of information. You don't have to create everything. You don't have to go out and find all the news that's going on in your world. There is a list here, courtesy of Steve and Jack in the Arbor Association marketing team, shared this with me, of where they're getting content from, the sources that they're following on platforms for the latest news about your industry. So if you want to have a look at them, I would suggest screenshotting this or pressing pause and writing those down and going out and looking for what they're doing, and then using the information. Acknowledge your source, but that's useful. And I've recently added the Met Office at the bottom. The Met Office have some amazing content on their social media platforms, and in particular are always sharing news about storms that are coming or really hot days and what to do. And I think that that could be really relevant for you guys to keep an eye on and be sharing as well. It may seem like a dry subject, but actually they make it really good fun and have a lot of engaged followers on their platforms. Next resources, my next quarterly update, planning ahead, will be the 16th of November, exactly the same format as today. Please do feel free to join us again, watch on replay. Lots of resources on the Arbor Association website in terms of those online videos that I mentioned earlier, but other articles, help guides that you can be using. And then if you would really like to know all 180 updates that happened over the first 6 months of this year, or updates as they happen week by week, then I do keep a blog on my website listing everything that happens with links to more information. So if you ever hear about something in between these updates, that could be a good place for you to go and see what's happening. And you can always get in touch with me if you have any questions on it. So I think I've talked solidly for nearly 40 minutes. I hope that's been useful for you. Is there any questions? There's none in the Q&A box at the moment. Sometimes there's a separate chat box as well as Q&A, but I don't think there is. Has anyone got any questions? Live chat. Here we go. Oh, Sandra's here from Norfolk. Hi. Sarah, any questions from you?
Just starting my video. No, actually, I found that was really interesting. And Canva.com, I'm going to look at that. I haven't even heard of that one, so that's a new one on me.
Yeah, it's great for creating event graphics really quickly. You can kind of drag in an image, you can put the dates and times, and then it becomes just like Word. You can kind of highlight it and change the font and the size and the color. But because it's already set up as like a square or a Twitter post, you know that it's going to work, and you just download it as a JPEG when it's finished.
Brilliant. Brilliant. It's with all these things, isn't it? It's just the more you do it, the more you get into the rhythm. And also I sometimes wonder if it's a confidence thing as well. People don't always like posting in case of what if they put something wrong, or just actually getting out there. Once you start doing it, you get the confidence and you build up, and then it becomes second nature, doesn't it?
It does. And I think that's why sometimes I kind of encourage people to just kind of watch what's going on first. It's a bit, the analogy was always, you know, if you're going to a party, what's the first thing you do? Well, you know that you go to the kitchen and you get a drink and you kind of stand there for a bit, don't you? And you kind of watch the room and, you know, see who, if there's someone there where you already know, or who you might feel comfortable going over and talking to. And I think that's the thing about social media. It's very hard to use for your business if you're not using it just in your life. You know, if you're not familiar with what Instagram looks like or what Twitter looks like. So, you know, I think if you set things up correctly and you don't overshare and put your address and your date of birth and when you're leaving the house and how long you're going to be out for, I think it's a perfectly safe place to be and a wonderful place to kind of stay connected with people and get information. So yeah, I think it is a confidence thing, but it's also about knowing just some of these tools that can just make life easier, because I know sometimes it can go, oh, it's going to take me hours to do that, or, you know, how do I do this? And you kind of go, if I set myself up a little template that's for a testimonial, every time I get a nice new, you know, comment, I've just got to go in there and cut and paste it, and it's, you know, it's a quick job to do.
Yeah, it's always handy, isn't it, whenever you are new to things, if you can just break down any sort of barrier that is going to stop you from doing it in the first place. And interesting, I've just seen in the corner of my eye, looking at the chat, Sandra has said that she is new to this, and it's confidence though. And actually, I started that conversation, Sandra, before I'd actually read your your comment. So so there you go. Just start doing it.
and I think it's always interesting when I talk to people. I'm not saying just do it. You know, the world is, you know, there's a lot of people on social media, but to be honest, they're not all paying as much attention as you think they are. You can delete things. You know, if you've got any common sense in your head, you're not going to post things that you really shouldn't be posting anyway. So almost don't overthink it. Just do it and see what happens. And, you know, things can be fixed and things can be deleted and images changed. You know, to start off with, you know, I hate to say it, you will be lucky if you get a handful of people or hundreds of people looking at it. To get up to the hundreds and thousands does take time, and your confidence is built by then, and you know what you're doing and what you're up to. It's still scary. You know, I guest write for a publication, and I had a post go out today that I know goes to 500,000 followers, and I still get petrified because I'm like, you know, what if someone doesn't like the advice I share? But you know, what's the worst that can happen? Someone disagrees with a tip. I can deal with it. I can manage it. So, you know, those big numbers don't happen overnight. You will build up to it, so your confidence will go at the same time.
That's a really important point, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. You're not broadcasting to the masses when you first start.
No, I had a friend that wanted to write a blog for ages and ages, and she had such a barrier about doing it. And I said, you know, just do it. And then I remember the day where she said I'd done it, and then literally like 2 hours later, she's like, no one's read it yet. So, you know, again, it's, you know, there's always going to be some element of fear. And what I've heard is, but that just means that you care about your business and what you're saying. And that's a good thing. But don't just, you know, yes, there are millions of people on Twitter, but they're not all going to see your post, and they're not going to see it the first time or the 10th time. So just build up and just watch first, see what goes on. It's a fascinating place for people watching.
So Sandra said thanks, and as the only person in the office couldn't quite deal with hundreds of followers, so I think you'll be all right.
You'll be fine. Yeah, it's a number on your screen, so yeah, don't worry about it. What did you put? They look different across platforms. Yes, they do, which is always a challenge as well. Stick to what you're comfortable with. I'm actually more comfortable with using things on a desktop than I am a mobile app. I do test things around because it's part of my job, but just, you know, just use one and get used to it. And when the platforms do launch all these new features, don't worry about it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to use it. Yes, Instagram have launched Reels. I'm not going to go in my garden and film a 15-second video now just because I can, because it's not relevant to my business and it's not going to support my business. And I don't want to do 15-second fun videos. So just because there are all these features, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, they all seem to be sort of doing similar features now, aren't they? So they're all actually becoming all of the sort of same thing, even though they kind of started off as quite different platforms. Yeah, I think eventually they're all going to have a very similar features, whether it is Insta or Facebook, which, as I say, are quite different.
they'll all be watching each other and taking the best bits of each other. Why wouldn't you? And actually, I think it's one of those things that as a user then makes it more familiar, because, you know, it's a bit like shopping now, isn't it? You know, we're all so used to how Amazon works. We expect other online shops to work the same. So I think if these platforms can go, well, if I hit the like button, oh, actually, I've got a choice between like and love and celebrate, we feel more comfortable than going, oh, this one looks so different to the next one, I can't deal with it. So I think familiarity is actually helping. Good.
Yeah. The only other comment I was going to make is the one on LinkedIn with the, you know, with the economic downturn and people losing jobs, and actually that's such an important feature that people are now saying, you know, talk to me if you need some help, if you need some support, or I've heard of this. And actually that networking, I don't know, I've never used LinkedIn quite right, but I found it quite stagnant, whereas I think is going to be a really good forum for actually, as I say, networking and opening up hopefully opportunities for people who, you know,
I'm seeing it's a more and more supportive place with, you know, people. I think during the crisis, I think people have got more open and honest. You know, we're letting each other into our homes now, so a certain barrier has gone down, and, you know, there isn't a stigma to, you know, I've lost my job. You know, hundreds and thousands of people have lost their jobs right now. It's not their fault. It's the situation. And actually the fact that people are posting going, you know, if we've ever worked together and you're looking for a recommendation, give me a shout. And I think that's a really nice networking human thing to do, because we're not robots. You know, and it's almost like, you know, the more that you're aware of other people's situations, that you can help them, do you know what, at some point this will reap rewards. People remember who helped them, who was kind to them, who offered them advice, who introduced them to someone. You know, that does, you know, there's a karma to it as well, isn't there? Long term. And, you know, we're still in the crisis, but over time it will get better, and people will remember that, I think, as well. So yeah, it's all becoming a nicer place if you focus on what you want to use it for. I think you've got to kind of go, this is what I'm using LinkedIn for, this is what I'm using Facebook for. They are very different kind of places to play, but you've got to, when you're using it for business, you've got to kind of stay quite focused on it too.
Indeed. Really useful. Wise words, Luan.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, any questions? We will send you a copy of the slide deck as well as the recording, in case you just want to jump to a couple of slides rather than watching the whole almost hour through. But yeah, thank you for joining us this evening. Hopefully lots of ideas and resources for you.